And for further analysis, we're joined from London by the political and economic analyst Babak Imamyan. Welcome to the Q News Economic Bulletin. Sir, what are the main reasons behind the resident doctors' decision to strike now, and how has their pay changed in recent years?
Well, thank you for your question. When you say how it has changed, obviously, as you mentioned, the resident doctors and the British Medical Association claim that their pay now, even after the increases in the last 2 years, is like 20% less than 2008 once you adjusted by inflation. So what they mean is the inflation has been so high for the last 17 years, but the economic growth has been very low. So we are looking at average economic growth of 1%, while inflation has been as high as 9%. And that's the reason why the government does not have the money. And the doctors are, especially the resident doctors or the junior doctors as they were called before, are in a worse position than they were in 2008. So the main issue is not the dispute, I think. In my opinion, it's low growth in a weak economy. And unless that is addressed, we will have this problem all the time. So the issue is nobody is addressing the low growth economy.
So basically, the 5.4% pay rise is not enough, but how might this strike impact the National Health Services, the NHS, and the patient care during those 5-day walkout?
Well, there is that humanitarian crisis there, which is who do you want to blame? Who is at blame here? Is it the doctors, the people who are supposed to fix the economy so we have a high growth economy and we could afford this? But if you look at the funding of NHS, it's through taxes. And 50% of UK people in the United Kingdom, in Britain, they don't pay any taxes because their income is not that high. And the top 10% pay 40% of taxes. If we translate that into NHS 190 billion budget, so majority of that is paid, 60% of that is paid by the top 10%, only 10% of the users, let's call them. And the rest of it is paid by the other 40% users. And 50% of users pay nothing towards that cost. So there is that issue. And the NHS budget is increasing all the time by something like 20 billion a year, which is over 10% of the annual budget. So you have those issues to address, and nobody is discussing it in those terms.
Well, let's look at it from the political point of view. What challenges does this strike pose for Prime Minister Keir Starmer's government, the Labour Party, which pledged to end all industrial unrest?
Well, then we go back to that breakdown that I gave you of the voters, that 50% of the voters pay no taxes. And that 50% have given up on any ambition. So that all they look to is who would give them more benefits from public sectors. So as long as the Labour can secure that 50% or majority of that 50% that pay almost no taxes or zero taxes, they would be in power. But then when it comes to delivery, when they are in government, they would have this issue. There would be a shortage of money, funding, and then end up with having a crying chancellor. Rachel Reeves was crying a few weeks ago.
Okay, so in what ways could this strike influence future pay and labour negotiations within the public sector?
Well, it's just a lip service. At the end of the day, there is an inflation. The inflation is now around 3.5%, but it was just 2 years ago at 9%. So people are suffering. The government will need to pay the doctors at the end. But then nobody's talking again. I go back. How do we improve the economy? How do we get a high growth economy? And one of the ways would be deregulating the economy. And nobody's discussing that. We need massive deregulation. And why the economy was mishandled, the recovery of it since 2008. Then again, nobody's discussing that. So I think we are concentrating on the wrong issues and addressing wrong problems than the real ones.
From London, that was the political and economic analyst, Mr. Babak Emamian. Mr. Emamian, thank you very much for your input.